from the Public Health Institute, and I'm the Quality Improvement Advisor for our Nurse Family Partnership programs. I'm joined today with my colleague, Robin, who I'll let introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. This is Robin Vandermoor, and I am also with the Michigan Public Health Institute, and I'm the Quality Improvement Advisor for the Early Head Start, PAT, and HFA teams, and I also oversee coordination of all quality improvement activities that fall under the initiative. We're really glad to have you all today.
So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We haven't had a Community of Learning webinar in a little bit of time. They are typically quarterly, but we make exceptions on quarters that we'll be seeing each other in person. So we're really excited to have some time together this morning. As a reminder, if you haven't been to one of these in a while, or this is your first CQI Community of Learning webinar for MHVI, this is a chance for all of those teams under the Michigan Home Visiting Initiative to come together, to network, to share common problems, common solutions when it comes to home visiting and using quality improvement as a methodology for improvement. We typically take some time to connect with each other in terms of updating on our CQI work. We often take time also to learn new tools and new methods of using quality improvement and the PDSA method. And it's oftentimes a great chance for us to have sort of a captive audience with each other to have targeted conversations like we will today. So a couple of things that I want to be able to remind you will come up in a moment, but before I get into our agenda and a couple of logistics, I do want to let everyone know that we're recording today. So I'd like to invite you all to put yourself on mute. Please mute your line, and that is different than putting us on hold. We'll hear that awesome elevator music and won't be able to get rid of it if you put us on hold. So please put yourself on mute so that everyone will be afforded the opportunity to hear everyone clearly. And I'll go over a couple of other logistics in a moment. But let me take a moment just to let you know what today's webinar will look like. We always like to spend just a quick time doing a roll call. So we want to know who is on call with us today. So we'll go through that. We're going to do some CQI project sharing. You should have received an email from Robin, and if you're here with us today, you did because you had her connection information. Robin let you know that we'll be doing some projects, so we'll ask each team to let us know what topic you're working on in your LIA-specific CQI work. Robin also gave you a couple of teaser questions to come today with on your mind. We want to know a little bit about what CQI wins your team has experienced lately and what questions you have either for our QI advisors on the call, other LIAs who are working in quality improvement, or our state partners on the line. We're going to spend some time today being led through a discussion from our state partners to dig deep, a little bit more deeply into talking about parent involvement in CQI. So we'll take some time to talk about what seems to be working, where there might be challenges, and where we inherently see the value of parent involvement within CQI work. So that you can expect today, we always aim to get you out on time or early if possible, but we will expect to use our time today talking about these things. A couple of logistics, as I already mentioned, we're recording, and it's very easy to hear side conversations, typing, things like that. So please mute your phone line. A couple of things that I wanted to show you, we're really trying to get a bit more fluent with our WebEx, our software. And we want to show you a couple of things that you could also use to be able to communicate with us. So if you need to, of course, take yourself off mute, ask us a question. There's always one way of getting in touch with us. But there are a couple of other things that we want to bring your attention to in terms of WebEx. We have a chat box. If you haven't noticed that yet, you can always click on the icon that says chat if you don't see it, and you can send a message either to the entire group or just privately to us over here at MPHI if you want to let us know that there's an issue or you have a question or something that you don't feel comfortable saying out loud to the entire group. You can also raise your hand. So when you see your name and can figure out who you are on the list of participants, there's an option for you to raise your hand, and that lets us know that you'd like us to call on you and bring the attention over your way. And something that I also want to bring to your attention is that as the leaders of and hosts of this webinar, Rob and I do have the tool of being able to mute everybody. So if we get a lot of background noise or can hear a lot of side conversation, we might end up using that tool so that everyone can, like I say, really be afforded that opportunity to hear the conversations today. Lastly, the one thing that I bring to your attention is that our quarterly webinars are really only as meaningful as you make them, so I encourage you to engage, ask questions, make this relevant for you and your group. So we're, again, excited to have you here on the call today. I'm going to do a quick roll call. I do have the luxury of seeing a lot of you who are on the line, so I can make this a little bit faster. So I'm going to go through, and I encourage you to listen to the list that I go through to say who I see online. And then I'll take a couple of moments to ask who's been left out and who I can't see. We have partners from the state on the line. Bryn and Wendy, welcome. I see Saginaw EHS is here. I see Wayne at HFA is here. NSP, welcome. Jenny PAT, Bear NSP, Kalamazoo NSP, Saginaw NSP is here. Mesquite HFA, welcome. Jesse EHS, glad to have you. That's what I can see on our participant list. Others may have joined. May I ask who else is on the call today?
Yes, Hurley NFP is here.
Welcome Early Head Start and welcome Hurley NFP. Who else is here? Kenneth P is here.
Say also.
Sorry, we caught HFA. Say that one again.
HFA also.
Thank you for being here. Who is on the call?
Saginaw HFA CQI.
Well, do we have a representative from Oakland EHS here? We have Healthy Families Northern Michigan here.
Yes.
Welcome. Healthy Families Upper Peninsula?
Yes.
Thanks, Kim. Did your Kalamazoo HFA is here? Okay. Kelly, have you joined yet? Ashley, do we have any partners from Oakland NSP? Thank you all for joining us. Wendy, I believe that we have another guest joining us. I'm wondering if you might take just a moment to introduce our guest on the line.
Was this Wendy that you were referring to? Because I'm not aware of another guest.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that we might have a guest from ACF joining us today.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about. I have not seen her pop up in the list, and that would be Patty Marikovic, who is our consultant for Early Head Start.
Great. Thank you so much. I will actually throw the mic to one of my colleagues that joined us. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, my name is Lauren Lapine. I'm one of the QI advisors for our Learning Collaborative work. So it's nice to hear all of you on the call today.
I should give the heads up that Lauren is truly our newest QI advisor and a face that you'll be seeing more and more at our grantee meetings and within our QI coaching work. So hopefully that's a face you get a chance to meet in the near future if you haven't already. So welcome everyone, so glad to have you all here. One of the true values of getting together is the chance to hear all of the wonderful work that you are all making progress on. So what we'd like to take some time doing is checking in on projects, and we've done this in a variety of ways over the years throughout all of our quarterly calls. What we'd like to do today is kind of a quick round robin. We're not asking for a full rundown of your project, and I should give the disclaimer here, we're focusing on your LIA-specific projects. We are pretty well aware of the learning collaborative work going on, and we have the luxury of sending out your monthly updates to everyone. So we're covered right now in updates for learning collaborative work, so put your hats on that focus solely on your projects that are specific to your LIA. So what I'll ask you to do is, as I call through the lists of teams, let us know what topic or topics, if you have moved on to your second or maybe more PDSA cycles. Let the group know what topics you're working on, and we're going to be creating a little bit of a list here so that you can see all of the range and variety and maybe make some connections between groups that are working on something that you've also worked on that you can share information on, or that you might want to connect with to learn more about what they're doing. So we're going to make this easy. Let's start out with our EHS and PAT teams. You can see the list in front of you in the sense in which I'll call on you. Genesee EHS, you get the gold sticker of being asked first. Could you please share with us the topic or topics your LIA-specific projects are focused on?
Good evening, this is Kim Lyons, and I have Connie Hayes, our Family Service Worker, and Nancy Gia, our Family Service Coordinator. We're so sorry for being late. We've moved into a brand new building, and we're trying to figure out our tech, where everything is. For our project, our statement is that by July 15th, 2017, our Genesee EHS program will increase the number of maternal depression screenings completed using a data tracking timeline from 50 to 60%. Improvement theory too, or are we just doing that same statement?
You know, I think right now it's super helpful for us to get a glimpse into the range of topics. So we're really excited to hear about your project about maternal depression screenings, and very excited to hear about what you guys learned from that. So thank you for sharing, and welcome, team.
Thank you.
Jenna, PAT, can you let the group know what topic or topics your LIA-specific projects are focused on?
This is Marquita Callahan here, and I have Chandrika Payton and also Mary Flynn. And our topic of discussion was to increase parent-child engagement in our socialization. AIM statement was by March 31st, 2017, GISD SKIP PAT program will increase its attendance in parent-child socializations from 60 to 70%.
What a smart aim. Thank you so much for sharing. We're really excited to hear what you learn about your project on increasing parent-child engagement through your socializations. EHS, can you tell us what topic or topics your LIA-specific projects are focused on?
On positive parenting skills, and our AIM statement is by July 2017, we will increase the percentage of parents who are reading, singing, or telling stories to their children every day during a typical week from 25 to 75%.
See one of our new performance measures in that AIM. Awesome job, team. We're excited to hear what you learn of your project on positive parenting skills. EHS, have you joined the call?
Patty Marikovich, I'm on the call, but I'm just listening as a model developer.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Patty. And if any questions or comments come by, please feel free to share.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. EHS, would you mind sharing with us the topic or topics your LIA-specific projects are focused on?
Hi, this is Heidi. Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Oh, make sure I hit the right button. Reading literacy, and our aim statement is to increase the number of families who read to their children 3 or more days per week from 32% to 60% by May 1st.
So much. I see already that we have some patterns and we have some similar projects that we might be able to make connections with. So I hope to encourage you all as you see, Robin is taking diligent notes, but if along the way you see a topic that you're interested, that you'd like to learn more, please use this opportunity to take a note of a team that you might like to connect with. If you need any help connecting to a team that you're unfamiliar with, your QI advisor would love to build that bridge for you. So the power of our group really does rest in our sharing. So if there's anything that you'd like to learn more about, please let other teams know or let your QI advisor know. We're going to move on to our HSA teams. Healthy Families Northern Michigan. Have you joined the call, and can you share your topic or topics? Our team joined yet. So let's move to Healthy Families Upper Peninsula. Could your team tell us what topic or topics your LIA-specific projects are focused on?
Hi, this is Mary, and we're working on enrollment, specifically working to improve the process of referrals on our partner health departments across the 15 counties of the Upper Peninsula.
Thanks for sharing, Carrie. We're really eager to hear what you guys learned from your project. Kalamazoo HFA join the call? Kent HFA team, would you share your topic or topics?
This is Elise. Mana and I are here, and Brandy will be joining us shortly. We are working on enrollment, as is probably common with HFA programs. And so we are working on following up with referral resources, bringing and doing some extra follow-up to see if that maintains or increases referrals from those sites.
Thank you much for sharing. One other QI advisor observation that I'd like to share along the way is that one, we can network with each other is not only through your LIA-specific projects and learning what others are doing, but I do see some really great themes here that kind of cross into the work that we're doing in our learning collaboratives, and I really want to open that up in the way that your team thinks about your LIA-specific projects, that a theme that we stole shamelessly from the home visiting coin is exactly that, stealing shamelessly when it comes to what others are doing in QI, and that truly does extend between the LIA specific and what we've created for our learning collaboratives. You are all in a learning collaborative, so you have a sense of the kind of work and materials that have been created to support and truly streamline some of the quality improvement work right now in breastfeeding, outreach and enrollment, and positive parenting practices. So I'm really excited to hear that some of our teams are focusing their LIA-specific projects on areas of particular relevance to them, but might also have selected topics that they can sort of beg, borrow, and steal resources that already exist through our collaborative work together. So just another piece of food for thought as you're starting to think maybe about PDSA Cycle 2. You might hear something on the call today that truly sparks an interest in your group, but also think about the topics and the resources that have already been created not only from this year's learning collaboratives, but even previous years' collaboratives, and live in that elusive place that we call SharePoint. And if you ever want any of those resources, we would love to point you in that direction. Of my soapbox of sharing resources. Muskegon HFA, can you let us know what topic or topics you're working on?
Good, this is Mary Ann. The whole team is here. We're also working on enrollment, and for this PSA cycle, we are working on increasing referrals from a specific LG member agency and created a referral process and a procedure policy, and are hoping to be able to adapt that to other agencies. please.
Okay, thank you so much. Staff HFA, your to share your topic or topics.
Yes, we are working on increasing daily reading, singing, and story time with our families.
HFA, what topic or topics are your LIA specific projects focused on?
HFA, Wayne, our topic is postpartum checkups. We've only that in the beginning we've only found that about 83% of our mothers were receiving their postpartum care.
Data-driven approach. So thank you so much for looking at something that follows your data of importance and tells you that there's a place there to focus. So we're eager to hear what you learn about your postpartum checkups. To our NSP team. Bear NSP, I see that you're on the call. Can you share with us the topic or topics you're working on?
Yep, we have two topics that we're currently working on. One is documentation on telephone calls with families on their behalf or directly with them in what we're working with them so that we actually take credit for all the work we're doing. And the second one is related to the completion of 90% of the forms required in the ETO system or part of our most specific documentation, which drives the work with our families.
Sharing, Cheryl. And Calhoun on the call. Detroit NSP team. Your voice from Hurley NSP. Can you let us know what topic or topics your team is working on?
Hi, we were working on something to engage our families more in group activities to help increase their involvement in NFP and in some of the initiatives that we have going on and be involved in our CAB. So in an effort to get the moms more familiar with the program, more involved, we looked at increasing our parent participation rate at our group events, and that's currently what we're working on.
Well, thank you for sharing, Trina. NSP, can you share with the group what topic or topics you're working on?
My name is Nola. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Nola.
Oh, thank you. Our topic that we're working on is to increase the amount of dance assessments we do. Dance assessments are a requirement through NFP's program, and we have not been able to always do the required amount. So first we had to kind of improve our supply drawer of pipes, which is a resource that we use along with dance. But at any rate, the idea is to increase the number of dance assessments that we're doing with clients.
Hello. Cal NSP, your turn to share.
This is Julie. I've got the entire group here. What we're focusing on is we would like to work on some client retention and engagement, and we are looking at a summer celebration that we'd like to do this summer as part of our work, and within that kind of second project, nutrition education and activity is part of that as well.
Thanks for sharing, Julie and team. NFP, your turn to share.
We are working on outreach and enrollment. We have a couple different projects going for that, just to increase the percent of referrals from non-WIC sources. And also having the nurses, we each have 5 community partners that we follow up with for outreach.
So much for sharing.
Yep.
Did we have a member of the Oakland NSP team join? NFP, do you have topics that you can share with us?
Yep, we actually finished up our first site-specific project at the end of February, and we were looking at provider outreach. Our AIM statement was by February 2017, 20% of our new enrollments would have a letter sent out to their provider. Actually accomplished that goal. We met it to 100%, and we found their engagement with some of the providers in the area.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, Leanne. Boy, you guys, I'm so excited when I'm able to hear and see even on our screen all of the different projects that everyone is working on. I'll make what probably an obvious observation that we have a good amount of variety, but we also have a fair amount of crossover. So this is an exciting opportunity, I feel like, to learn from each other, do that shameless stealing and shameless borrowing from each other, and just carry forth with that work. One other QI advisor observation is that what I see is that some teams are working on one project, some teams have two going on, some have completed one and have moved on to two. There is a variety of ways and patterns in which your team can meet your LIA-specific requirements that come through your involvement with the Michigan Home Visiting Initiative. One thing, and you'll hear me reiterate this at the end, one thing that I'll encourage you all to do as you are progressing through your first and second PDSA cycles, be sure that your QI advisor has documentation of your projects on hand. So that includes a team charter for the projects that you've started, updated team charters as you progress through and make changes to that foundational document. And then once you've completed your PDSA cycle, we need to have on file your finished storyboard. And that can be a summary that takes a variety of shapes, and your QI advisor would be more than happy to review those documents, give feedback, and really support you in all of the great work that you're doing. Again, team, kudos, and thank you so much for sharing. We'd like to have just a couple of small focused conversations here before we move into a deeper conversation about parent involvement in CQI. Robin threw a question your way in the invitation for this quarterly CQI Community of Learning call. We're really looking this time to hear about the wins that you're all experiencing. So the question that Robin threw your way was, what win have you recently experienced in your CQI work? And I'll give a hint here that we have a really wide range of how we define win. This might be a PDSA cycle that was really successful and met the goals that you set forth. It might be a team meeting that went particularly well. It might be a staff member who maybe was reticent at first of getting on the CQI bandwagon and feels more engaged these days. I really would like to hear the wide range of wins that you've experienced and how you define that. So I'd like to throw that question out there and see who'd like to start by sharing a recent win.
This is Genesee EHS. I'll start. We stole or borrowed from Ingham County, Kelly Allman. Their group had created a parent timeline, and we took that parent timeline and our team worked together to kind of recreate or adapt that timeline, and we're calling it a parent kind of data timeline. And we added in there all the requirements that are required for McVie and for our program. So like the dates of the REP and maternal depression screening and the substance abuse screening and the GLOW and now the Safe Sleep Log and tobacco use screen, as well as well baby exams and ASQs. And so we added the family goals on there. And working to use this as a parent and the staff as building partnerships between those two. So it opens the communication lines between parent and the staff so that with that, they work as a team like we always want them to do, because we believe that parent is the child's first teacher, and so you can open those communication lines, make sure they're both on the same time when those things are due. And I think that that's a big win for us, and that's what we're working towards in this CQI project.
Wow, Kim, I will totally echo that. What a big win. And I have to say, you've really put yourself out there. I think you're going to be getting some emails and phone calls from our partners on the line who might be really interested in that, because, boy, you've really been able to capture a lot of important information in one place.
Well, I appreciate stealing from Ingham County. We like what it looks like, and then, there was stuff that you do that's been a really useful tool, and, we're working towards hopefully making it a really great tool for our program, too, and for our parents and our home visitors.
This is Patty Marikovich. I'm sorry for interrupting. This is Patty from the Office of Head Start, and honestly, I'm making notes of that as well, so would be willing to respond to us when we ask for some information from you. I know who to call. How's that?
Absolutely. We'd be happy to share that with you.
Patty from Ingham, Early Head Start. I'm sad that you guys are using that, Kim. Ironically, we're not anymore. So I really would like to hear how yours goes, because maybe we do need to bring it back. We didn't really have any success with it, so it'd be to hear how you're using it and how it's going.
It's completely revised, Kelly. You should see what it looks like now. It's more
good. You'll have to tell me when we're in Saginaw next month.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to bring that with us.
CQI advisors are really happy over here. Thanks for those connections.
You're welcome.
Other teams, tell us about wins you've recently experienced in your CQI work.
This is HFA Wayne. Originally, when we started our charter, our mothers were at 83% for receiving their postpartum appointments. Our goal was to reach 95%, but we're proud to say that we're at 100% of the beginning of April.
That is an amazing improvement. Not only did you meet your goals, but it seems that something that you did really boosted the opportunities and the availabilities of your moms being able to go to those postpartum appointments. That is really, really terrific. Experienced by our teams on the call today.
Elizabeth with Oakland EHS. I'm sorry I had joined the call a little bit late, but we have been working on parent engagement. One of the things that we've been doing is taking a sheet into the homes, just a piece of paper that has a list of different activities that the parents can do with their kids. Home links, because I can link. We're adapting it from our Head Start classrooms, but we can link, the parents through the week to the activities that they do during the home visit. I've had a couple of parents now tell me that has revised the way that they work with their kids. Even if they don't do all of the home links every week, they are still looking at the sheet, and that is giving them other ideas for things that they can do. Have them divided into categories, so science, math, literature, and they're taking those and revising them on their own. So that's really exciting for us.
I can see why your team is excited. It sounds like a great tool that was adapted from your from your other work and other exposures, and we're excited to hear what you guys learn. What other wins that teams have experienced?
Elise from Kent HFA. We are excited to say that we have surpassed 85% capacity by the end of March this year. So that was a big deal for our enrollment work. And it was partly due to things we did for the DSA cycle, but also work that we have continued that held over from past years of CQI work in Quain and all of that. We were really excited to hit that goal.
We understand why, Kent HFA. We know that 85% capacity marker and bar one that's easier for some teams to get to and really challenging for others. So, boy, we're really eager to hear what you learned that really bumped you up to 85%. And I bet there's other teams on the call that might like to learn some of the tips and tricks that your team was able to implement to get to that point. Kudos to you all. Teams, tell us of your recent wins.
Hi, this is Marquita Callahan again from Genesee County Parents as Teachers Program. And a recent win that we've had was using a Remind 101 notification system that sends a reminder email, a text to parents, lets them know when our next socialization is. And parent feedback has been phenomenal with this process. Parents love it. Really feel connected to the home visitor by getting that reminder from the home visitor of when the socialization is. Also, home visitors really enjoy it also with seeing the socialization numbers climb, and it really has boosted our socializations and increase.
A really great example of using one tool to really make progress in lots of different areas. I heard you just mention that not only is it increasing participation at socialization events, but that there's this connection going on where parents feel better connected, parents feel in the loop, home visitors are feeling satisfied of how numbers are going. Sounds like a very effective and efficient intervention. Thanks, team. What others have been experienced recently?
We were working with the moms group, and we had a couple of different things. We had originally planned to increase our participation by 15% in December. We extended that out to May 30th because that's when we did our first event. And we've, at this point, we're at an 80% increase as of February. And then we also went from having 0 moms involved in a mom group to we have 4 that have been working on planning, that worked on planning our future events, and we have 4 that are going to be coming to participate in one of our CAB meetings. We have more moms that are interested in getting involved.
Thank you so much for sharing. I have to say I didn't hear the first part. Can you remind us who was experiencing that win?
NFP.
Thanks, Shirley. Other wins and notable wins that you'd like to share with our group?
This is Kent, NFP. And for outreach and enrollment, we have got almost to capacity. We currently have 158 clients for our team of 6 nurses.
Congratulations, team. What a great thing to be able to report out. Well done.
Yeah, we're pretty good.
I understand. Thank you. Other wins?
This is Saginaw HFA, and our staff has figured out how to collect all the needed data in a seamless manner to make monthly reporting easier.
Use the magic way to do this. Now, there's another team that might be getting a lot of calls and emails after we wrap up today. We're eager to hear what your magic recipe is. Do you have any other wins that you'd like to share with the group? We'll just a couple more before we move on to our next focus question. Boy, we really want to thank you all for sharing these things today. We know that this is just the tip of the iceberg of the wins that you're all experiencing, and the even some of those small achievements every day through your PDSA cycles and your QI work. Thank you for everyone for sharing. Those of you who didn't get a chance to share some of your wins, your QI advisor would be so pleased to get an email that shares some of your wins. So if you're able to share today, please feel free to shoot Robin or myself an email so that we can continue to amass all of these these wins along the way that you're experiencing. So next, I'd like to move on to another focus question, and this is one that gets at, as I mentioned, another heart of why we get together every quarter, to really network, use this chance as a way for you all to share the mic and bring up any questions, any concerns, any connections that you would like us to make. So our next focus question is, what questions do you have either for your QI advisor or for other LIAs engaged in CQI? Who has a question they'd like to share? Now, I know that the groups who've received Robin's email have had a little chance to think about this and come through with some questions. It can be for the QI advisors on the call, other teams, maybe even about things that you've heard about on today's call, or I'll even extend our range of questioning, sorry to our friends from the state, but if you have any questions also for Bryn or Wendy in terms of CQI work, please feel free to share. Who'd like to start with their question?
Kim from Genesee EHS. We did have a question for Robin about our baseline data, but she's already sent us the information. So our QI advisor's already taken care of our question. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any other questions maybe for other teams on the call? I won't belabor the point, but one thing that you've heard us re-encourage is connecting with each other. We've already heard of some very rich connections through sharing, through questioning between our teams. Feel free to continue that work of connecting with each other, asking for documentation, asking for tools, and also, as Kim just plugged, please feel free to connect with your QI advisor. We always want to hear how things are going. We always want to be able to be there for you if you have any questions or if we can troubleshoot with you. One thing that Robin and I do track are some of our frequently asked questions. So over the years, we've really been able to create a large document of frequently asked quality improvement and PDSA cycle questions. So that might be something that you see us continually either ask for additional content and questions for, but also maybe share some of the answers that we've created over the years. So just one last invitation, if you haven't already, then we certainly want to make sure that we are there for you, ask questions, connect with each other. I'd like to move on just to a few more like housekeeping next steps and reminders. We have a couple of things that we want to make sure that we bring to your attention, and this is before Robin and I wrap up our portion of today's call and pass things over to Bryn. We want to talk about a couple of things. First being our upcoming CQI training. You've likely already heard, but we're able to provide another 2-day training to our Michigan Home Visiting Initiative Quality Improvement participating teams. This is open to anybody who's on an LIA or LLG QI team. And this is a great time for you to get a refresher training if it's been a while since you or a teammate has heard our CQI training spiel, or a perfect time to bring a new team member to really get up to speed on quality improvement fundamentals and the steps involved in the PDSA cycle. The upcoming training will be May 3rd and 4th at the Henry Center. It's technically in Lansing, but it butts up against the MSU campus, so it's close here in Ingham County. If you have any questions about this. We've put our colleague Hannah Scott, her email here on the slide. Connect with her for registration and any other details that you might be looking for more information on with that upcoming CQI training. We also have the pleasure of seeing everyone next month at our next Michigan Home Visiting Initiative grantee meeting. This will also be learning session number 2 for our learning collaborative this year. And as always, we ask that all LIAs end with team representation. We're really excited to spend some time together in Saginaw this year, at this meeting. We'll be meeting on Thursday, May 17th from 10 to 3 p.m. I mentioned in Saginaw at Saginaw Valley State University's Conference Center. Again, we have Hannah's contact information on the slide if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what to expect at that grant meeting or have questions about event logistics. Just to plug one last reminder when it comes to your CQI work. I mentioned this already, but just as a refresher for those who are a little less fluent with this, a chance to keep nudging you along with your QI work. Just a reminder that every fiscal year, each LIA in the Michigan Home Visiting Initiative is responsible for completing 2 PDSA cycles per year. So they can happen concurrently, they can happen consecutively. It's your team's decision. But at the end of the fiscal year, we will expect that you have started and completed at least 2 PDSA cycles specific to your LIA. This is different and separate from our learning collaborative work. So know that aside from participating in the learning collaborative, we look every fiscal year for those 2 complete PDSA cycles, and one of the ways that we know that you're making progress towards that contractual requirement is that we see team charters on file to let us know that you've created a project, and also that we see a storyboard on file that tells us not only that you completed it, but tells us what you learned.
Hey, Joelle, this is Lise. Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt, but May 17th is a Wednesday, not Thursday.
Oh, what a great connection. Thank you so much. We appreciate that clarification. So let me clarify that we will be meeting for the next grantee meeting on Wednesday, May 17th from 10 to 3. Sorry for that confusion, but it is truly the Wednesday of that week on the 17th. Thank you much for that catch. I'll give you another chance to ask any questions of what we've talked about today or any of the slides that I presented. Any questions from you all? Okay, well, you're always going to end with a slide that has our contact information, but I have a hunch most of you already have Robin and I's contact information, so please be in touch. At this point, CQI wants to thank you all for listening to each other and us, and we're going to kind of take the driver's seat right now of just going into driving the PowerPoint presentation from here on out. Bryn, I think that you're taking the reins on the conversation from here on out. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful. We'll continue to drive the PowerPoint. Just let us know if you need any adjustments along the way.
So good morning, everyone. I'm sad so many of you were able to join this webinar this morning. And we are really in the movement as a state to enhance our parent involvement work, particularly with CQI. So I know that if we could go to the next slide. Sorry, can we? Thank you. So we're going to begin by and actually Kim from Genesee Early Head Start, I find the very first reason why parent involvement matters. Because everything we do within home visitation, we know ultimately the parent is not only the primary teacher, but they're actually the decision maker for anything that we want to encourage as change or to increase the development of a child, always happens through the parent. And we know their involvement is important because they're primary customers of our programs. It isn't that the children aren't primary customers, but the children don't have a way of being a voice or a decision maker in what we're doing. So involving them in our CQI process is actually a key tenet of continuous quality improvement, as well as one of the 4 basic principles. And if you think about it, it makes sense that those who are receiving our services, ultimately we're trying to change our results, improve them, and so it makes sense that we need to have their view and their expertise in the process for us to really know that we're hitting our targets. So I wanted to really spend a moment talking about there is more and more research showing us that families who are highly involved in their communities almost double the positive odds for their children. What I mean by that is I'm going to just cite the original person who discovered this in the research, and it won't surprise most of you to know it was T. Barry Brazelton. Long before there was a body of research talking about the importance of resiliency, he actually had discovered that in very young children, there's a scale, and he was working in highly vulnerable neighborhoods, and noticed there was what he called a hope scale. And the things that he discovered through his work was that children, particularly those who live in highly vulnerable neighborhoods, but young children are exposed to things that by the time they enter kindergarten, they know that parents cannot solve the problems by themselves. And it can be as simple as incidents like 9/11. No matter how much we try to protect our young children, they know about these major events like tsunamis and 9/11. And even young preschool children have enough to understand that mom and dad alone cannot protect them from things like that. So there's a safety mechanism that is part of our brain development when we're quite young that kicks in at incidents like that. And children who see parents involved in community work and joining with others to deal with issues, those children have a way of saying, oh, gee, you know, mom and dad can't do this. And, of course, it wouldn't be this articulate in a 4-year-old. But essentially what's happening is they can see mom and dad can't solve this, but they join with others, it's solvable. And it actually creates a hopefulness, resiliency skill in children that in the long run, we see much better outcomes for those children. So having families involved in the community beyond just raising their own children actually increases the odds for that child in doing well. Often in our CQI work, parents will bring motivation for us to really think about why is it that this work matters so much. And when they help us set our goals for statements, they actually help us think through and create ideas that are based on their life experiences as recipients of what we're doing, that we can actually test and see some direct benefits that they achieve. So if we go to the next slide, Robin in the email had sent out some tickler questions, and we wanted to have a chance to see what strategies different LIAs have had experiencing engaging families. So we're going to first hear about strategies that were utilized and successful, and we'll open it up secondly for challenges. At this point, I know that Tiffany have reached out to our partners there at Kent HFA and asked if they'd be willing. Well, they've had some experience and success in partnering with parents in their QI work. So I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share first and kind of launch a conversation as to what strategies you used and the success you've had. Anyone from Kent HFA who would be willing to share with us?
Hi, this is Elise. We've been inviting parents to our CQI teams. We have one in particular that's come several times now that we're looking to continue to elevate her as a parent leader for our program and our community.
Identify that family.
We recruited through the workers for some families, and we've had a few different parents come to different meetings over the past year, year and a half. And this one mom in particular really enjoyed it and stuck and has been returning. So she's been a good person that we've identified as somebody we want to continue to elevate in that role.
Strategy that's been successful for engaging parent partners has been to work with the home visitors themselves to do the reach out to the families to invite them to be a part of the team. Thank you.
This is Mindy. I'm just going to add something to that. I think it's important to know that we are able to do that recruitment and invite these families and get them to be on board. We give them an incentive, but that's not their driving force for being a part of it. It's kind of a bonus surprise. Like, they don't always know what the incentive is going to be. They know that they might get something, but we don't tell them every time what kind of gift that they will get. It's different sometimes from time to time, and they still really just want to have a voice. And once they get here, we ask them for their opinions, and they get to really, and we try to back explain things that we're talking about that they might have history with, and really just incorporate them. And it's been really great to have their voice at the table and to have them help us figure out where we should be marketing and how we should be marketing and what things aren't useful and what about our retention parties are good. It's been really great to have them consistently a part of our meeting.
For an incentive, the driving motivation is how much they want to have their voice in the process.
That's my impression. I guess the supervisors are shaking their heads yes. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Very much gets at the piece that some research talks about. It really is about they love to get into the place where they feel like their life experience has something to add value to someone else. So that is a very important, empowering piece for families. Thank you. Do LIAs who would like to share their experiences or strategies they like have been successful, particularly?
Hi, it's Marquita again from Genesee County Parents as Teachers. Our parent representation has been involved in the whole CQI process. She's been trained fully in that. She also serves on our CQI team, and so really encourage parent involvement in the learning. She also attended the last collaborative meeting also. So that parent piece is very vital. Like you said, in any instrumental, in any program, learning their perspective on what they have to say is very crucial. She's also been able to get input on our data, and also give us input on our parent surveys, and just we really value her input. She's our parents as teacher and family.
Someone else who was starting to speak at the same time. Would you like to share?
Yeah, it's Nola, and like the speaker that just mentioned, having the parent go to the training, that's kind of how we began to get someone started in CQI interest. Challenged the team to see if they could come up with one client that might be interested in the local training that came to Lansing area. And Juana was able to get a parent to go to a day-long workshop. And that she then went on to our Great Start Collaborative meeting and hasn't made an LLG meeting yet, but we're hoping that would be the next thing due to some barriers that, like you talk about. I think for us, we found that if they didn't know a lot about CQI, that was probably the best starting point, was to have training behind them. Plus, there were good incentives to go to that training.
Just so other people have, in case you weren't here last year or don't know the reference Nola is making, EIC and MPHI partnered together last year and put together a one-day training where the morning invited families who might be interested in joining the CQI team work, and the morning was really focused on helping them understand the importance of parent involvement, why voice matters, and just some very beginning basics of awareness and leadership pieces for themselves. And in the afternoon, Robin and Brenda from MPHI, we offered the families a chance to understand the basic tenets of the CQI work. So as they joined the teams, they would have their own background. They did go through the two-day training, but they would have the background in the CQI work to know how the initiative could benefit from using their voice. So as we move on, one of the things we'll be gathering is, seeing at the end of this conversation if there's other supports you all want from us as a state. So, for instance, if you felt like that's something valuable, there's a way we could probably offer that again. So, giving people a reference point as to what NOLA was referencing. Others who would like to share? Okay, I think it's also equally beneficial, as we learn new trades, so to speak, it's always beneficial for us to also take the opportunity to learn from sometimes what has not worked well or what challenges have been encountered, because sometimes we can solve them and sometimes they can inform us as to directions we don't necessarily want to take. So at this point, I would like to open up the conversation for those who have tried strategies that feel like you encountered challenges too, and those challenges were.
One of the things, this is Elise from Kent. One of the things we ran into is that some families just are less outspoken than others, and they're nervous to speak up at first or even after sitting through one of our meetings. Just getting past that anxiety can be a challenge. Also just schedules. Some of the families that have participated in our CQI work kind of jobs where their schedule is not consistent, so some months they're available to come and some they're not, and they don't always know until a few days ahead of time what their schedule is going to be, so it can be difficult to plan around that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Did you find some good strategies on what to do around the families who are nervous or more reserved?
We tried to, put them at ease by doing some of the things that Brandy mentioned earlier about giving them a little bit of a backstory about why we're talking about that particular thing, asking direct questions because then we could get some answers as opposed to just leaving an open-ended, does anyone have anything to add kind of thing. If you ask a direct question, you could get a little bit better feedback. But some families just, I think, naturally find that more intimidating because there's different personalities out there, and some people are more shy and some people are more outgoing. So just something to be cognizant of going forward.
Yeah. It's like not everybody's, I'm sure that you all have different staff members within your organizations where it's like, again, you have a variety of personalities and some have ways to join teams and be leaders, and some that's just not their thing. Well, that is going to be true, of course, of the family community. So
this is Angela over at MPHI. I actually, I'm going to take a moment to highlight something that I've heard one of our NFP teams, Oakland NFP, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard a really interesting strategy. I was really excited to see this on one of your team charters that kind of hits at several of these challenges that we're hearing, and I'll let them speak a little bit more to it after I give some context. But they've, one of the things that I've heard from them is that they've incorporated a parent onto CQI work, not necessarily in a super formal capacity or something that is consistent to every team meeting, but more as a reviewer of ideas, a reviewer of documents, something kind of waxes and wanes based on needing that parent voice and the parent input. Just being able to say, yep, we vetted this with a parent, we got some ideas from some parents, but really opens the door to some, what I would consider to be middle ground of participation, where you're still tapping into that resource, but maybe in a way that feels a little bit more flexible and maybe feels a way that hits the needs of parents who might not have the right work schedules or might not be fully ready to engage as a full-time QI member. Oakland NFP, did I do any justice to that technique you guys have used? This I've talked about with Michelle over at Oakland NFP. So I'll throw out there that it's something that I've seen a team do with some success that really does help out. And I'm seeing a message that our Oakland NFP team is having trouble connecting with our audio. So she said, yes, we heard it well. Thanks. Yeah.
Phone that have encountered challenges or strategies you've tried that it's like, well, this one didn't work for us? Got to share?
Nola again, and this is not a new problem probably for a lot of people, but the translation issue and burden to the families continues to be one of our difficulties in getting that involvement. Despite offering things like bus tokens, I'm hopeful that during the spring months and summer that it's nicer. Parents might not be as inhibited to take a small child to the bus. In the winter, it's very difficult to do that, but hopefully we'll see improvement there.
Mary Ann from Muskegon HSA was on the phone, and she holds a couple of hats, and one is to work with the LLG as well. I don't know if you'd be willing to share the strategy that you use in Muskegon related to transportation barriers as it relates to the parent leader work. Well, actually, I will and speak to it because I'm in the role of being the person who facilitates that parent leader group, and I can tell you one of the strategies that Muskegon HFA, or excuse me, LLG has utilized is they actually hire a driver that will bring the parents, because they do have transportation issues, over to the meeting, and of course that's Muskegon to Lansing, and we provide the other supports, including the reimbursement for the mileage, but they actually do hiring of the driver. So it's just another way to try to work with one of those barriers that's been, I think, quite creative, and I know successful. Who would like to share before we move on? Okay, why don't we move to the next slide? I'm typing in the piece around the Muskegon driver, but as soon as that's complete, if we could just move to our next.
We're working through a little technical difficulty on our end, Bryn. We're trying to figure out how to move forward.
Okay, we'll start the conversation on the move forward because the next slide is about different strategies that can be employed to engage parent partners. And one of the first ways that can engage parent partners is to work with your home visitors and really implement surveys. And someone made a reference to their usage of surveys. It is a beginning step. It's a one-way communication in that if you're trying to learn something, a way that you can have your own home visitors ask a simple question and bring that data back to you, and you get some sense of what is happening amongst the families that you're serving. Another is to actually hold some focus groups. So hold a gathering, and particularly if you have a few things that you want to learn. So both surveys and focus groups provide a really strong way to do one-way communication with families. Another strategy you can use to engage parent partners is in rebuilding a local infrastructure that includes parent partners. Much of that is, the first place is to really have team readiness. So the QI team, really working them to understand why they would want the expertise of the parent partners. What are some of the things that they could do as a team to welcome the new families in, really in a way that's quite respectful? Sometimes teams will have hesitation of, we're not sure how we're going to be able to have the same kind of conversations if we have a family there, and really having that conversation up front so they can work through some of the issues that sometimes will hold a team back from being resistant from having a family join a team. And there are different materials and you can use that if you needed any support on how to do that readiness piece for a team, I'd be glad to support you in that. You could reach out to me. Sometimes you have to think about how you set your meet time and location to accommodate the parents' needs. So this isn't going to do anything about the challenge the one person raised about the need of someone's work that even know they're scheduled till a few days out. Will not accommodate that. But one of the things that is often true is you'll set your meetings up so that you're not looking at the young children. You don't have your meetings, it would be natural, take kids to school or picking up kids from school. So really thinking about your time and your location in terms of your parent participant and how you might work as a team that can work for the team and still accommodate the parents' needs. What often happens is that a whole team benefits from is by having families join your QI team, it really can support you as a whole team to get really clear on what does it really mean to be part of a QI team. And is this role about, and what are the expectations of being a part of this team? But we're getting clear because as you do the invite to a family, you need to be very clear on what it is you're asking them to do and what you're expecting from them. And sometimes there is a side benefit in that you've had some fairly new team members who themselves weren't that clear, and it helps clarify it for them as well. And then, of course, often you need to have a way of supporting certainly the essential needs for building your budgets to support your parent partners, expecting to pay for their child care and their transportation. And I know Brandy indicated they do a small stipend or honorarium, just a surprise piece for the families. The offering parent training on the fundamentals of CQI, this is actually the training that NOLA referenced that I also gave you a context for. That's something that the state could do because at a local level, this is probably unwieldy, but at state level it's quite doable where we bring people together and we support the families in that process. And again, setting their expenses and honorariums and so forth. And also on a local team, just having, it can be another parent or it might be another team member on the QI team, but really having a go-to person. As someone's new to the team, do they ask the question, what there's a conversation and are more reserved? Do they context to a piece of a conversation that maybe they didn't follow, but maybe they were in the beginning feeling shy enough they didn't want to ask. So there's a way to build that local infrastructure where it becomes part of just how you do business in your community. And these are all things that go to support building that infrastructure into the parent partners. You can tell it's readying the team and readying the, I will say the organizational side of the work and also readying the parent participant. You can see both paths have to come together to really build this strong. Could move to the next slide. So one of the things that often is the barrier is how to go about recruiting the parent partners. Part of it is, using the resources you already have, which is your home visitors, and everything about home visitation, and we all know it's so relational in its orientation. It's about using that same relational expertise to really figure out how to recruit the parent partners. Your home visitors know who the parents are that are interested in having their voice be a part of things. You can ask a simple question, and by and large, pretty quickly know who wants to be involved in that kind of thing. Equally important is looking at what are some of the qualities that you as a team either need to be able to develop or bring a person aboard. And so it is someone who has a way of respectfully communicating, and that's their style. Could be someone who the home visitor is working with, and maybe it wasn't their culture or their background, but they feel like they have a respectful style. They're very open to learning about that. Because as long as there's an openness to learn these pieces, that's really what a home visitor in doing the invite needs to look for. Someone who can share with your team both positive and negative experiences. Often we will shy away from families who can share the negative experiences. But when it comes to QI work, have someone who can articulate things that don't work is incredibly important in your brainstorm process. Often help you set some pieces or new aim statements that will lead you into some really strong results for where you're trying to go. Of course, you want families who can make the time commitment. You want families who have the ability to listen well. Again, with openness, that you don't expect them to come into your team understanding how to have discretion and how to keep, but they're parts of your orientation process to them bringing the team. And who's going to be open to understanding how that works, and you know that they can do that piece with you. Of course, the other strategy for engaging parent partners is at minimum expecting that you're going to offset their expenses for participating, which is transportation and child care. Sometimes because you're a part of the team because of the expertise you have from your professional role, you're looking to pay for their expertise as part of this team as well, and so having a small budget that sets up those honorariums for parents. So these are all a variety of strategies that you can use to really begin to build your parent partnerships. And they're tiered. You can tell the surveys and focus groups is one way in, building the infrastructure, understanding how to recruit the families to join the team, and really setting up a budget, a small budget, frankly, but a budget that can help support their participation. And then it could move to the next slide. So within the QI work and the PDSA cycle, here are a variety of bullets as to why parents can really support the success to the work you're doing. They are instrumental in helping identify where improvement is needed because, often we have a way that we see something that we're implementing and we think it's working in a certain way, but often their voice will let us know when the road hits the road, here's really what's happening. So sometimes they identify gaps where we feel like we've got a strategy in place, but what we discover is it's not actually being implemented in the way we expected. It helps the team understand that from the client or the parent's view, what is it that we're trying to improve? Is there a result from the way the parent's going to receive the change that we're making that is of benefit to their family? And if they're quite beneficial in helping us brainstorm reasons why a problem might exist within our program, as well as solutions that we can test. They often bring in what I call the surprise thinking into a brainstorm of solutions, where we've all been sitting around doing a lot of the same types of work, and so we all have the same set of ideas as to what might work. And often the family will bring in an idea. It's like, wow, who would have thought of that? So I call them, often they bring in the surprise mind in brainstorms of solutions. So can, of course, and I think it was referenced, I know a couple of the LLGs have worked with families to rehab their materials and the families really look at them to tell them if they're parent-friendly, how to give input to really all your outreach materials, how to refine them, and identify things. I'm thinking of one that just happened recently. A group had sent a piece into the state, and the parent leaders looked at it and said, well, the meet says it's being hosted at MDHHS, and rather than, because Jess will immediately put a trigger into a family, some of the families, just give the address. You don't need to give the location and put the trigger into the space. So we often have that kind of input that we can no longer see, but families naturally think about. As part of the team, they can help test part of the testing for the improvement theories, as well as helping to study the results. So those are some key ways that parents can support your work within QI. So we are really genuinely interested in, as we think forward, about having parents participate, having them involved in their CQI work as you move forward, building them, to your teams as you move forward in the coming years. We're interested in understanding what support you need or want from the state that supports your efforts to be successful. I don't know if it's on purpose, but someone joined with some background noise. There we go. Do you have anyone have different ways that you would like to see the state support your efforts, or things you would like to have happen for you to be successful in this arena?
So Cheryl from Berrien County, a couple questions. So if we were able to recruit a parent to be part of this process, does that parent have to be a current client? Can it be a graduate client? And how recent of a graduate would you consider to be appropriate?
It's a really good question, Cheryl. It definitely can be a family who's been a graduate. The rule that we use at the state level is that the child is under age 6. And the reason for that is simply because communities change, and, by the time, let's say a child is 10 years old, how something worked inside a community 10 years later is often not the same, and so you don't get the same kind of input. But there's no question it can be a graduate of the program, and, ideally under age 6. However, I'll tell you, as you get started, one of the things we did with the local leadership groups is we really opened the first 2 years for this we asked them to have parent participants. We opened it to any parent who had received home visiting services, and we did actually move them in the direction of it needed to be someone who had a child under age 6 until they had 2 years of learning forward how this can work. You can use that as a model. You may need to work with a family who's, let's say their child is 8 years old. You ready the team, so to speak, and then, fold it forward, begin to identify families whose children are under age 6. Does that answer that question, Cheryl?
Thank you. And another question, I guess, is related to, I'll be real honest, we need financial support if we're going to do this, because this is not something that's built into our budgets. And the second piece of that is, like in my county, we have real restrictions from a county standpoint in terms of transportation options for families, daycare options for families, and overtime requirements for staff in terms of changing up meeting times to meet needs of whatever. And even looking at our demographics from a CBC standpoint, we are serving the highest of the high risk in our community, which really narrows our pool when we think about, school-age moms and, transportation needs, because even many, or I would say by far more than 80% of our 18 to 20-year-olds do not have a valid driver's license, even if they had transportation. They don't have that. But we have so many restrictions around transporting in county vehicles, and, you know, then if I have a meeting after hours in terms of overtime / time for my staff people, I mean, I understand all that, but just the logistics, just so you know, I mean, we've talked through this hundreds of times. And I'm real involved with the local leadership group and have been with the Home Visiting Hub and our Great Start Collaborative. And I know that those groups have things in place, like to pay their parents, to pay their daycare, transportation. But the moms that we see showing up at those meetings, and even over the last, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years, I can honestly say, unless they're in a fully paid position with one of those organizations, we don't see this mom coming back for more than like 2 meetings at a time. You know, that's just a struggle, I think. And I wish I had answers, you know, or solutions, but the real parent volunteers that, or not volunteers, but parent voice, tend to be the mother who has a special needs child who has really become the advocate for her child, not just our, say, run-of-the-mill, but just, you know, just a parent seeking home visiting support services. It's really the parents that are showing up at that have a child who is embedded in the system for true abilities.
I mean, take some notes because I know you're right up against the time, and you're bringing up some very good issues, Cheryl. And so one things I will do is try to put things together and get that to you in terms of how to. One of the things that may help us is to work with some of the experts in some of the communities who have certain demographics who've been successful. They, you know, really able to find, because the issues you're talking about are very real. It's more about how does the community go into resources of their parent network to really see how to make this live. And I know, I mean, you're very much speaking to a history inside your community that is quite real. And so I'd be glad to try to put my head together with you and see what we might do, because this gets into a readiness piece. This really is a cultural piece, and it really is about how do we do some readiness work to some of that paradigm. I'm wondering if we have anyone else who would like to jump in, and I know we're right up against time. So do we have anyone else who would like to see supports from the state for your efforts? I want to turn it back over to MTHI because I'm assuming you would like to, you know, wrap this up knowing that we committed to the 11 o'clock as a stop time.
Much, Bryn, and thank you for all of our teams who sat and listened and also participated. One of the things that we want to just echo, as you've heard along the way, is that if there's anything that you want to follow up on, if you didn't get a chance to share something or would like to send either experience or QI efforts or support that you'd like to see, as Bryn asked, from the state when it comes to parent involvement in your CQI efforts, please feel free to send them our way. Also, if anything comes up, go and consider us to have a virtual open mic at all times through our phones and through our emails. You have our contact information likely, but if not, here they are. Myself, Angela, Robin, and Bryn, we have our contact information here on the slide, so feel free to follow up with any questions or additional information that you didn't get to share today or would like more information on. Please feel free to connect with us. But with that, since we are over time now, I'd like to just yet again thank you all for your time and energy this morning. I know it's hard to get away from the work of home visiting, but we really see value in these connections. We will be able to follow up, and you'll hear from us when it comes to ongoing QI work and upcoming CQI trainings and grantee meetings. But other than that, we will thank you for your time today and very much look forward to seeing your faces in the next few weeks. So thanks everyone and have a great day.